We start off tonight with the resolve of the Lagos State government to reopen the case against Major Hamza Al-Mustapha. The Attorney General of the state has filed an appeal in the Supreme Court seeking the reversal of acquittal and discharge of Al-Mustapha and Mr. Lateef Shofolahan. Speaking to journalists today, the Lagos Justice Commissioner, Mr. Ade Ikpaye, says he was dissatisfied with the unanimous judgment delivered on July the 12th by the Court of Appeal, quashing the death sentence handed to both men by Justice Mojisola Dada.
We have indeed studied the judgments. There were two judgments, one in respect of Al-Mustapha and the other in respect of Lateef Shofolahan. Both have been studied closely, and we came to the conclusion in this ministry that there were good grounds for appeal. And we have since filed all the necessary papers. We did that yesterday. So officially we have put in our indication that we want to contest the judgment of the Court of Appeal at the Supreme Court. So that appeal has been filed.
Now, Major Hamza Al-Mustapha was the former Chief Security Officer to General Sani Abacha. Now, the fight against the falling standard of public education has been taken to the streets as civil society groups and unions today voiced their grievances over the lingering strike by university lecturers, leaving many people stuck in heavy traffic. Marching along the popular Ikorodu Road and a few major roads in Lagos, the protesters maintained that education is underfunded and blamed the government and politicians for the neglect of the sector. The group is demanding autonomy in the administration of tertiary institutions in the country. Our correspondent Kelvin Obete reports.
The protesting crowd, which comprises civil society groups and unions in the education sector, started from the premises of the Nigerian Labour Congress in Lagos. They are worried over the rot in the education sector. Though it was a peaceful one, the police were around to forestall any break in law and order. For them, education is right, and the reasons for government's alleged insensitivity must be made known to the public. After all, everyone is in one way or the other affected.
The crowd is gradually moving towards Ojota. Now, the attendant consequence of this is the heavy traffic jam that is coming behind it. Some vehicles are already making use of the diversion in order for them to meet up their destination.
Motorists had no option than to bear the pain. Commuters were also stranded at bus stops, but then many believe it's a just cause.
The traffic is not going to last another 2 hours. I'll get where I'm going, but the educational system is a turnout for Nigeria.
For you to get something good, you have to suffer first. Without pain, there cannot be gain. So we endure the pain, because gain is coming to us.
This thing our government is doing is very, very bad. They don't recognize masses people at all because they have enough money to send their children to Obodo Yibo to go and read book. Look at how they are suffering our greater tomorrow. These people are our greater tomorrow. They are the hope of this nation. These students you are seeing, it's very bad. It's very bad.
The final point was Maryland, where the crowd was addressed.
This is just a Lagos kickoff. It is not here the Southwest Rally. The Southwest Rally will take place in Ibadan. Oh yes. Greater Nigerian people. Yeah.
Nigerians must arise to join in this struggle, to make this government see the need to fund public education so that we can have public quality education in this country. And we want to insist that if cocoa money can do it, if palm oil money can do it, then oil money, crude oil money should be able to do better.
One of the dramatic moments of the protest was this.
These protesters have decided to end the long walk here at Maryland against plans of reaching Ojota. More than 3 hours, they've shown some form of determination, all in a bid to ensure that the government are pressurized to attend to the declining state of education. Perhaps this will go a long way to change the state of things. Calvin Obetin reporting for Channels Television News.
Well, as those street protests were going on, the meeting between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities today ended in deadlock. But despite this position, the chairman of the Needs Assessment Committee and Benue State Governor Gabriel Suswam was optimistic that the strike will be called off on or before the next meeting on Monday, August the 19th. However, the members of the ASUU negotiating team, led by its president, Dr. Nasir Fage, refused to speak to journalists after the meeting.
Are you walking out? Who told you?
The meeting continued next week, Monday. We've made some progress, had very fruitful discussion with ASUU, and we have agreed that we'll meet again next week, Monday, at about 3 o'clock. When we meet next week, we'll be able to arrive at some positions. The Minister of Finance, you agree with me, is standing the meeting for the first time, and DG budget. And so we're getting close to it now that finance is coming, because the strike is about settling some debt and also intervening in the university. And so she's here. She also has contributed immensely. We believe that when we meet next week, Monday, with ASUU, we would have moved from where we are today to the next stage. I can assure Nigerians that this is serious. The president have taken this seriously. As you can see, the Minister of Finance and the two Ministers of Education, distinguished Senator, DG Budget, every person, Minister of Labour, every person who should be here is here to show concern. This shows the seriousness with which the president attached to what is happening in the education sector. We want to make sure that we solve this problem. So we're holding meetings round the clock. The fact that we've been unable to conclude today does not mean that the meeting is deadlocked. It's not. We've very fruitful meeting, and I believe that when we meet next week, Monday, would arrive at some conclusion.
Well, one of ASUU's grievances is the falling standards of education, and we're going to stick with that for a moment. Mrs. Augusta Odenwigwe is supposed to be a teacher, but it turns out that she is in need of education herself. After 20 years of service as a school teacher, findings show that she could not even read. Governor Adams Oshomole, who supervised the screening of teachers in Edo State, was stunned when he was confronted by this low level of intellect. Our correspondent Charles Eruka reports.
It's not very common to see Governor Adams Oshomole wearing a suit, but this event he considers an important one, which explains his appearance. He didn't just commission the verification exercise for teachers. This visit also avails him an opportunity to evaluate the process, and the revelations are as interesting as they are pitiable.
Believing stem to the truth and be correct by written or plain correct. Okay. Make I start at saying. And that made this. It's not make I start at. Hence, this ability. It was start from here. It was not officially registered. Hence, this registered or registered? Registered now. Hence, this affidavit.
After over 20 years in the teaching profession, Mrs. Augusta Odenwinge, a teacher at Asologun Primary School, Igbobauha local government area, also clearly needs a teacher.
By virtue of the provisions of the oath
Act of 1963. That is what you couldn't read. So if you can't read the written word, if I ask you now, go and write this on the board, can you?
Despite the obvious, the state chapter chairman of the Nigerian Union of Teachers still has some reservations.
Because I have really sympathized with the governor over his bitterness as far as the decadence in the education sector is concerned. But the approach is what I personally have been worried about.
Clearly, this is one exercise that needs to be extended to all levels of education and perhaps other areas of public service.
It is very difficult to rebuild an old house. It's easier to build a new building. But if you are clear of what you want and you have the will to get it done, it will be difficult, but it is not impossible. And I think you guys have been extremely helpful. And I want to thank all of you who are part of these ICT agency. And we will provide more logistics. We clean up the place, make it look more like an office that it should be. And above all, for this particular phase of exercise, for the thoroughness and your industry and the sacrifices that you've made, I don't know the number, but we will give you special bonus. The amount
The governor's offer may be the incentive for the teachers to improve on their competence, but not forgetting that the entire exercise has exposed a real threat to the children's academic future. Charles Eruka, Channels Television News.